Beginning of this week's Parshas Vayeitzei, the pasuk talks about the Yaakov. He was sleeping. Yachlam v'hine sulam mutzav arza. There was a ladder. V'roisha magia shemaima. V'nimalchi Elokim oilam v'yordim bo. There was a ladder. The bottom was on the ground, and the top was in the skies, the heavens. And there were angels that were ascending and descending. A lot to talk about on this. One question is, what's the deeper idea behind this dream? Many explanations. The Baal HaTurim points out that Sulam in Gematria is 136, which is also equivalent to Mammon, which means money, and which is also equivalent to Oni, which means poverty. The Baal HaTurim then proceeds to quote the Bereshis Rabbah in Samaches Dalid, which over there discusses how Hashem miraculously arranges marriages and that no one would be able to do such a thing, and that people tried doing it once and people got injured because of it, and spouses, and it didn't end up good. And then the Midrash concludes that and basically says that Hashem is able to actually the language of the Mishnah is Hakadosh Baruch Hu Yoshev Ha'osei Sulamus Mashpil Lazeh Meirim Lazeh Umoirid Lazeh Umal Lazeh, that Hashem sits and He makes ladders. He brings people up, down, and there's different explanations what that means and why He needs to say it twice. The Eitz Yosef explains that one is referring to making people, are they going to have an honorable position, not, and the like, or financially. Is Hashem going to make a person wealthy or poor? That's what it says in the Baal HaTurim. The question is, why specifically is the Baal HaTurim addressing this over here? So if you look at the biur of the Baal HaTurim in the Oz V'Hadar Mikrois Gedolos, he explains that specifically over here, because Yaakov was going to get married, and the language is V'Hakol Talui Ba, everything depends on one's wife. Like the Gemara says in Baba Metzia Nuntes Amar Rabbi Chelba La'olam Ya Adam Zahir B'Kavod Ishto. You should always worry about honoring your wife. Why? She'in bracha matzui b'tzarich beis shel adam ela b'shvil ishto. There was only going to be a blessing in your house because of your wife. Like the Gemara continues over there, Damar lehu Rava lebnei Bechuza. Rava told the people from Bechuza, Oikiru l'nashaychu ki heichi dititaru. You should honor your wives in order that you will become wealthy. So we see from over here the idea of Hashem, which is symbolized by the ladder, elevates people, makes them wealthy, and also makes them poor. So my great-great-grandfather, the Nachlas Tzvi, comments on this. And he says that money has advantages as well as disadvantages. One of the disadvantages is someone who is unable to withstand the test of wealth. An excess money could cause a spiritual deterioration. Pasuk says, "Vayishmon Yeshurun Vayivot," and the Gemara that the Jews were fat and they kicked. And the Gemara in Brachos on Lamed Beis explains that Moshe was trying to defend the Jews for sinning with the sin of the golden calf by saying, if you're going to give someone all the wealth and dress him up and shower him and everything and put him in front of a place where people are sinning, he's certainly going to sin. And also, a lion is only going to start getting rowdy when you put food in front of it. It's the same thing with the Jews over here. That's what the Nachlas Tzvi quotes, my great-great-grandfather. So then he continues and he says that people who have a desire for money will not stop running after it day and night. It's constantly going to be burdened to amass more money, more wealth. Many times, this type of person will unfortunately not be concerned with davening with the minyan, he says. And he won't set aside time to learn Torah. He might transgress many sins in order to fulfill his desire to gain more money. However, having a lot of money certainly has its advantages as well. Someone who has a lot of money will be able to fulfill the entire Torah. He's going to be able to give a lot of charity. He's also going to be able to buy a very nice set of Daled Minim, of Esrog, a nice talis, tefillin. He says, Zeh kelim ve'aveyu, beautifying the mitzvahs. Based on this, my great-great-grandfather continues and explains that we know that Yaakov learned in the yeshiva of Shem Ve'er for 14 years without interruption. He certainly wasn't involved with finance at that time. At the end of these 14 years, he needed to flee from his brother Esav. He needed to go to Lavan's house and be preoccupied with matters pertaining to this world, aka finance, money, assets. Yaakov suddenly needed to be a shepherd. He needed to gather money in order to purchase slaves, maintain slaves, maidservants, donkeys, camels, etc. Yaakov therefore was worried that because of this he wasn't going to have time to serve Hashem. He was worried that he would always be worried about protecting his assets. They therefore showed him, Hashem showed him through this dream with the ladder. The ladder symbolizes money. The ladder begins on the ground that symbolizes wealth and the physicalities of this world, but it reaches up until the sky. That symbolizes the potential that money has. If we use our mind and our money properly, we could acquire completeness through that money. The angels that were going up and down symbolize the Torah scholars, Talmidei Chachamim. The angels ascending the ladder symbolizes our ability to descend and excel by using money properly. The angels descending symbolize the disadvantages of money, and that you could descend and go very low and stumble because of money. Even so, Hashem showed Yaakov that he was standing by him to guard him in order that he won't stumble. So we see from over here that the whole idea from this dream was that specifically at this time, there was a major concern that now it would not be used properly. All the assets, all the wealth that Yaakov had. Hashem was saying, no, don't worry. Don't worry about going down over here and that it's going to lead to a spiritual deterioration. I'm going to take care of you. Everything is going to be good over here. If you look in the Sefer Al Torah, Mikdash Mordechai, he's Av Beis Din from Tel Aviv. And he writes over there that in this episode, Hashem showed Yaakov, Moshe, that he was on the top of the ladder, and Korach, he was the bottom. Obviously, Moshe at the top is Har Sinai, Korach at the bottom is getting swallowed. So he was saying that this is what your money could do. It could make you great like Moshe, but it could also make you low like Korach. It all depends how you use it. Based on this introduction, an obvious way of how it ties into the parsha over here of this week, now we could discuss the fundamental question: is money better or worse for a person? Is it preferable? Is it beneficial to one's life or not? Most people who hear this question will say, wait, it's much better. I could live much more comfortably. Everything will be much better. But this question is not so simple. And this is why, Amir Hashem, when I'm going to finally publish the Sefer, the book that I'm writing, this is going to be the second or third that I'm planning on publishing and putting out. It's going to be called, do you really want to be rich? Do you really want to be wealthy? Or what does the Torah say about money? Something like that. Why? Because it's not such a simple answer at all. Let's discuss 4 different categories over here. The pros, cons of both wealth and poverty. And we're going to go into it. And the first 2 are going to be quicker, and then the last are going to be more. Pros of wealth, obvious. First of all, from a Torah perspective, and is wealth better for us serving Hashem? From a perspective, from the Torah, wealth is positive. We say every single day in that wealth and honor should be in front of us. Similarly, yeah, exactly. On Shabbos Mevarchim, when we have a new month coming, we say Chaim Shel Oisher. Should be a time of wealth. Wealth, people like saying in English, expands one's horizons. Where does that come from? It comes from a Gemara in Brachos, actually, on Nun Zayin Amabez that says Shloisha Devarim Marchivin Daiso Shalodim. 3 things broaden a person's mindset, make it wider. Dira Na'eh, a nice place to live, is one of them. AKA, if you have money, you have a nice place to live. Marsha explains that he's going to go after more pleasures of this world. It broadens his horizons, the Marsha says. Hainu Shiadaiso V'nasher Rachavu L'mehdracher Tanugil L'mhaza. So that's what it does. Now we have to realize that Hashem gave us this wealth, right, so that we serve Him better. That's what we have to realize also is an important idea, not so we use it for the wrong reasons. Person who has a lot of money could give a lot of charity. Some people, they give more charity than millions of other people. People who have a lot of money. Millions times more, if you do the math. It's a tremendous merit. The Gemara in Shabbos says, on Sadi Beis Amud Aleph, as well as the Gemara in Nedarim, Lamed Ches, that Hashem only rests His divine presence on someone who is wealthy. Someone who's wealthy, wise, and strong. Strong means he conquers his inclination. Simply put, we see that wealth is important. Wealth magnifies and demonstrates one's life goals and values, because now he could actualize that through his money. Someone who has a lot of money, he has freedom. He could do whatever he wants when he wants to do it. He could work, he could retire, he could start a business, he could learn all day, etc. He could do whatever he wants, his potential. So a summary of the pros is someone who has money will not need to work as much and as hard as someone who is poor. A lot of times, poor people, they need to, right? It should be pointed out that, by the way, that Gemara that says that Hashem only rests His presence on someone who's wealthy, it's also wealth is a state of mind. You have to be happy with your lot, which we're going to discuss more. That's what the Rambam says in his Mor Nevuchim Perek Zayin. Someone's happy with his lot. Then, when you're happy, then the divine presence of God could rest upon you. Let's go to the summaries. If you're wealthy, you could do whatever you want. You're not going to have to work as hard as someone who is poor. Poor people most times need to work in order to pay for their basic bills, hence living paycheck to paycheck. Wealthy people, they could live for a very long time without having to worry about paying their monthly bills. Another idea is that they won't be concerned about not being able to pay for food, feed their family, pay bills. Many times they're able to learn with Yishuv Hadas, people who have money. Their mind's totally calm, settled. They're able to afford a good rabbi to teach them Torah, or to be able to afford good health care, good doctors to take care of their health, etc., which is a very important investment. For the person who doesn't have health, he has nothing. He could have all the money in the world, but if he's dead, what does it mean if he has a serious sickness? So those are some of the pros of wealth. Some of the cons of poverty is obvious. They need to spend more time working, trying to collect money. They're living in areas which aren't so nice, neighbors which aren't so good, dangerous areas. They might be more tired at the end of the day. They're not going to have any strength to learn to be involved with other activities. They're constantly worried they might not have enough food. They won't be able to afford a good rabbi, teach them Torah, good doctors. They could have problems with health. Many of these reasons also apply to wealthy people. It depends on the exact case. There's always exceptions. Now let's discuss what are the negatives, the cons of wealth. Everyone always talks about how good it is to have money, but the truth of the matter is not so simple. We already quoted the Gemara in Brachos above. Another source that discusses excess wealth could lead to someone going astray is the chinuch. And by the way, the truth of the matter is, if you look and you actually research the topic, you can Google it, do whatever you want, read up on it. Statistically, people who have less money are more religious, no matter whatever religion it is, because if you have money, what do you need to pray for, so to say? But the chinuch comes along, and that's precisely the problem. The chinuch comes along in mitzvah Reish Mem Ches, he says that most sins occur because of overeating and drinking, aka too much excess, too much wealth. The reason for this is eating is physical, while Torah and mitzvahs are spiritual. The spiritual and the physical are complete opposites. When someone overindulges, the physical overpowers and weakens his spirituality, which is a problem. So therefore, the mitzvahs, the Torah won't be able to last within him. That's what the Chinuch says. Similarly, Rashim Shim Pinkus Atzal discusses this more at length in the Tiferes Shimshon on pages Reish Mem Tes to Reish Nun. And he discusses that regarding kindness, chesed, and overabundance could be problematic. What are you going to do with an overabundance? Right? When we receive some good, we could thank Hashem and not get too ahead of ourselves. Kindness is bordered, it's limited, so to say, because if we would just get everything we need, we wouldn't be able to handle it. The Gemara in Tainus actually relates that Hashem withholds rain, Tainus Chav Gimel, the recording, withholds rain from descending because we are unable to handle such a great abundance. What are we going to do with all the excess? Parnasa, sustenance, making money is sometimes withheld from us. One of the reasons why this happens is because we can't handle the overabundance. If we would have all of our desires that we want, we would just detach ourselves from Hashem. Conversely, the Torah is an unlimited gift that Hashem gave us. We could freely learn without any potential of concern. That's the idea. It's borderless, so to say. That's the idea. And proof of this is the Gemara in Brachos on Mem, where the Gemara says that the Torah is different than the physical. If you have a cup of water that's filled and you pull more water and it's going to overflow, nothing else could fit in. But the Torah is the opposite way. If a person has a cup and it's tons of Torah is filled up in his brain, more and more could go in. It's like building up a tolerance. You could lift more weight, you could run, you could lift more weight, and you could run further if you do it on a daily basis. You build up a tolerance. The Torah is different in that regard. So that's Reb Pincus's idea. Another idea is the pasuk says that Avram heitiv bavur v'yelo isonu bako v'chamorim v'avodim v'shachos. That Avram, he had a lot of animals, right? Avram was doing good. He had a lot of animals. He had a lot of wealth. And Bereshis Yud Beis Tezayin. Whenever the word vayehi is used, so it connotes pain. It says that Avram v'hi lo isonu bakar. He had a lot. So the Gemara teaches us in Megillah on Yud that it's pain. It's something difficult. What's the hardship? He had the wealth. So again comes my great great grandfather Nachlasvi page Chavav, and he explains that Avram didn't want this wealth because wealth could take away from serving Hashem. Later on, the parsha says that Avram was very heavy. Rashi explains he was carrying a heavy load. Why doesn't the pasuk just say that he had a lot of animals? Why does the pasuk say heavy? The reason is because the wealth was weighing Avram down spiritually. Nachlasvi. Rabbi Theodore Lewis, a Rav in is actually a Rav in Rhode Island in over there. He has a really two farm English on the Torah. Sermons of Torah Synagogue is one of them, and he writes about this on page 261 to 265. And basically, the theme throughout his sefer that he has in the Torah is he talks about wealth. That's his main topic and how it could be so problematic. And he basically explains in short, if there's a surfeit, there's excess of material possessions, there's a possibility that the life of ease and luxury is going to cause a breakdown of spiritual life that we just said. There's also a problem that he's just going to say, I amassed it because of my talents, because of my business that I did. So that's also another issue. Another problem over here is if the wealth becomes the only concern in a person's life to exclusion of everything else, aka spiritual values, the inevitable consequence is forsaking Hashem. You know what the biggest problem is in the Jewish nation? It's that people are not staying Jewish. Why aren't they staying Jewish? Why don't they care about Torah and mitzvahs, anything? It's because of all of the freedom and all of the wealth and the luxuries that they could do. They get distracted with things that aren't important. The Chafetz Chaim relates a story of two sisters, the Chafetz Chaim al Torah on Reish Sadi over there. He says that there was one person who married someone wealthy, one person who married someone poor. And one day the poor person came along, and the poor person who decided, who married the poor person, I'm going to visit the one that has a lot. And she visited and got the address and everything, knocked on the door, and a servant comes, finely dressed, and says, yes, what's going on? Oh, my sister, oh, yeah, sure, you visit. And then she met her sister and she saw, wow, the house was so fancy, all beautiful jewelry and everything, and said, sister, why do you look so unhappy? So you know what the sister who married into wealth said? He said, well, guess what? Your portion is better than mine because my husband doesn't listen to me. Let me express my opinion, she said. Sometimes he would even disgrace me in front of others. And therefore, she said, your lot's better than mine. That's what it is. So even though she was poor and she didn't have the same quality jewelry, clothing, etc., at least her husband respects her properly, allows her to express her opinion. The same applies to Torah. Some places, some shuls, beautiful shuls, Torah, beautiful. The Aron Kodesh, where the Torah is kept, everything is beautiful over there. But guess what? That's not a substitute for religious sincerity. It's useless if everything is beautiful, if the shul is beautiful like a museum, but no one's sitting and learning Torah properly. No one's davening properly. What's the worth of a beautiful shul if the congregants are desecrating the Torah? What value is there to a Torah that has gold and jewels on it, but if those who should give honor to it just don't even listen to the commandments in the actual Torah? On the other hand, there are shuls which are much smaller, and they aren't elaborately furnished like all of this, and they're very simple, down to earth, but people over there are devout and sincere, they're learning, they're keeping the Torah and the mitzvahs, the principles. That's the idea over here. Despite their poverty, they're happy, and it transforms their life, the Torah, in a better way. That's the idea over here. This is the challenge that we're in. Now, if Arguably, throughout history, we're the wealthiest we've ever been as a nation. And what used to be luxuries are now almost necessities over here, right? It's not just for the wealthy. Men and women, average people, they could just enjoy a lot of this wealth over here. But the question is, what effect has it had on our spiritual lives? Is it a Yishman, Yesher, and Vayivat that we kicked, we became fat and we kicked? Have we substituted transient values for real and permanent ideas? Our lives has become gold-centered instead of God-centered. Amazingly said. Nothing matters but the ascent on the ladder of materialism. Are we turning our back on our faith? That's the question that we have to ask ourselves. That's what it is. The laws of the Torah and traditions are lovingly preserved for centuries, and now they're just disregarded as outdated in a progressive society. The truth of according to my humble opinion, the truth of the matter is it's easily to get caught up. This is what we just said before with all the money and the materialism. Statistically, freedom of religion in the past century has killed more Jews than the Holocaust, you could already say. Because many are just focused on the money, on the careers, on the materialism and the good secular education as opposed to a good Jewish education. In other words, there's an overemphasis on secular education or underemphasis on Jewish education. The spiritual must be more important than the physical and the financial. And this is why people do not stay Jewish when this principle fails to be fulfilled. Another problem with the wealth, as we said before, someone who wants 100,000 wants 200,000, like the Medrash Rabbah teaches us in the beginning of Koheles in Aleph Yud Gimel. And we have to realize that we have to be happy with what we have. The money isn't coming with us when we pass. End of Avos in the sixth parak. Emes Yaakov goes into this more. Emes Yaakov on Avos on page Kuf Yud, and he explains that most people they don't even leave this world with half of their desires fulfilled. The wealthier person becomes most times, the more he wants it. Many times. Right? That's the idea over here. So the sad truth is that the wealthier person becomes, the poorer he really becomes. If someone isn't happy with what he has, he's a slave to his desires. But if you're happy what you have, you're considered wealthy. The Gemara in Sukkah and Beis talks about the evil inclination. The more satiated it gets, and the more you satiate it, the more hungry it becomes. However, the opposite also applies. The more you starve it, the less hungry it becomes. We could apply this to also physicalities as well. The more we desire, the hungrier we get. But if we starve it, then we're gonna get full. We're gonna be happy. Like the Vilna Gaon says, this world physicalities are like drinking salt water. The more you get of it, the thirstier you're gonna become. We have to realize this idea. A carpenter, someone who's building a house, the Dubna Maggid explains, the Maggid of Dubna in his parables, pages 165, 167. Someone who's building a house, what's going to happen? He needs the right tools to use. He needs a saw. So if you would replace that with a diamond saw, he wouldn't be able to build the house over here. Even though the diamond saw is much more expensive, it won't help him because he needs the proper tools to do his task. So too Hashem gave each person the correct tools that they need. Some are given a lot of wealth to be distributors of God's money. Others are destined to live in poverty in order to achieve the personal growth that's achieved from hardship. Only Hashem knows what exactly everyone needs. The truly wealthy person is the one who's happy with what he has. And we're designated what we need to grow and nothing else. And that's the trick, that to be happy what we have. Like it says in Avos in the beginning of the fourth paragraph, someone wealthy is happy with his lot, with what he has. Wealthy people who want more money, like we said before, are considered poor. The following are examples of this. The pasuk says, "V'Avram Zakin, Ba b'yamim v'Hashem b'Yerech Avram b'Kol." Bereshis Chav Dalet. Hashem was old, he was blessed with everything. What does that mean? So a lot of explanations. This Ferrari Katz and Aria on page Reish Ches says that Avram was at the level that he was happy with everything he had. He didn't feel like he was lacking anything at all. He felt that he had everything he wanted and needed. He had everything. Avram had everything over here. We say on Musaf on Shabbos, Mevarchim, Chaim Shalosha, like we said before. We're saying that what? we should feel wealthy, that we aren't lacking anything. Be happy with what we have, to be content. That's what the pasuk is telling us about Avram. He was happy in life. He viewed it. Hashem gave him everything, no matter how much or how little he had. Ravolbi in his Ali Shor, Chilak Aleph, page 263, explains the pasuk in this week's parsha that by Yaakov it says lechem le'echel, beg it a little bush. Just give me bread to eat and a clothing to wear. That's all he needed. His necessities. Because Yaakov said, Yesh li kol, I have everything. In Lama Gimel Yud Aleph. Yesh li kol, I have everything. That's what the pasuk means, that Hashem blessed Avram with everything. He didn't need more. He felt as if he had everything. And one who just wants to accumulate and amass more and more, he'll get more money, but he'll never have everything. Never. But if we're happy with what we have, Rashi explains, and we don't run and try to constantly get more, that's someone who's considered wealthy. How much a person has is irrelevant. If he's always worried about his money, constantly trying to get more, he's considered as if he's the poorest of the poor. That's the idea over here. To be happy with what we have. Shlomo Melech says, "Oiv kesef lo yisaba kesef." Someone who loves money, he's never going to get satiated from it. You have to be happy. Chovas Halavavo says that a sign. This is in Shar HaKniya in Shar Vav Perek Dalet. A sign that you positively pass the test of wealth is if it's not going to preoccupy your mind. You're always thinking about my property, your assets. If you're too afraid that something might happen to it, because that could take away from fulfilling the obligation to his creator, Torah and mitzvahs. Victor Miller Zaltzal explains that someone who over there who's just always thinking about everything, he owns apartments, his tenants, he's constantly in a state of unrest, disturbance, lack of peace of mind because of his property. Chazal Vavazal explains that there's no benefit for his wealth over there because all he has from it is long-term worry about how to care for it. The sign that the wealth was sent him and he passed the test is if he's not worried about it, right? If it's revenge, if it was sent for him in a bad way, he's just running after pleasures instead of using it for charity and the like. Rabbi Victor Miller Zatzal explains that if he's traveling all around, participating in nightlife, and he's becoming involved with the moral things as a result of this wealth, he moves away from a religious community. He settles in a wealthy suburb with wicked people. That's how you know you failed the test. That's how all these Jews went totally off. Their wealth ruined them. The following is a summary. Many times, the wealth could cause a spiritual descent. Overly focused on accumulating wealth and materialism, forsaking spiritual pursuits, other important pursuits, could cause one to forget Hashem because he credits himself with the success. He says it was all because of me. Many times, people who are born into wealthy families, this is a new idea, are spoiled, rude, arrogant, loud, and obnoxious. Many times they think they're better than other people and they're too good to even talk to or even to listen to other people. They don't care what others have to say, especially if the people are poor. Doesn't always happen, but many times it did. Mark Cuban, a secular source, he says that as a person's levels of wealth increase, their feelings of compassion and empathy go down, and their feelings of entitlement, of deservingness, and their ideology of self-interest increases. Not always true, but many times could happen. Be careful of it. Mark Cuban himself said it. Yeah. Many times the wealthier a person becomes, the more he wants. That's a summary. What are the pros of poverty? Well, Rosh Shlomo Kluger himself, Chachma Shlomo, said he wants to be buried next to poor people. The Gemara in Nedarim on Pei Aleph says, be careful with poor people because the Torah is going to come for them. He's haru b'bnei anim shemem teitzei Torah. That's what it says. Rashi explains we shouldn't view teaching them as a light and insignificant matter. Ran explains they have more time. Since they're unemployed, they have more time. They could utilize this time by learning. Furthermore, they could have a clearer mind. They're not going to be preoccupied with all their assets, etc. Truth of the matter is many poor people have less time because they have to work more. It depends on the exact case. All right. Furthermore, they could have a clearer mind. The Mishnah in Avos says, "Marba nechasim, marba daiga." In the second parak, the more assets a person has, the more worry he has. And the idea is, the Bartanura explains that you're gonna worry that they're gonna get stolen, they're gonna break, they're gonna get lost. Another reason is because poor people are humble. It's good to be humble. Humble is a prerequisite for learning Torah, as we discussed at length in other times. Chafetz Chaim once told the man that if you don't have any free time, you're not wealthy. The guys, so there's no greater poverty than yours. The guy you didn't have even time to learn. The Gemara says that the person who gives life is going to give food. Meaning, Hashem will provide for us. We have to have belief in Hashem that He will provide for us. Poor people could reach a higher level of belief in Hashem because they need it more. This is why they're also going to pray more because they don't have everything that they want. And it's going to cause them to get closer to Hashem. This is the snake. The snake was punished by what? By eating from the ground. In the Gemara in Yuma, and how is it a curse? It's a curse because he has no connection to Hashem. He doesn't need to pray for it. He doesn't need to ask for it. The Gemara in Yuma relates on Ayin Hey that the students of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai asked him, why didn't the man just fall down once a year and they would be taken care of when the Jews in the desert? Why every single day? The answer is so that now they have to pray for it every single day, similar to a king who gave his son an allowance as opposed to a lot of money up front so that the son would have a connection with his father and keep coming back. Same idea. We have a connection with Hashem. That's the idea over here, so that we have this connection, so that we get more spiritual. Victor Miller explains that it's easier for a poor person to have trust in Hashem because he has no other way to put food on the table, but the wealthy person, he doesn't have to trust in anyone, so to say. So we're all wealthy to a certain extent because we have shops, we have clothing that we could get easily, food. So we could think that, oh, if Hashem won't help us, we could just buy what we need, right? And if we need more money, we'll just go out and earn it. That attitude of is a bad that could separate us from between us and Hashem. That's the idea over here. We have to realize that He supplies us, and without Him, nothing could happen. Chafetz Chaim explains that we're obligated to respect poor Torah scholars because they're holding up the entire world. They're like the workers at the bottom of the ship. They might not be dressed as nicely, but they're literally causing the whole ship to go. There's a very interesting discussion about Shevet Levi, the tribe of Levi, that we have to support them financially. How does that make any sense? They are a tribe and they are selected out to teach the Torah of Hashem to all of the Jews. And now they're being supported by charity over here. What's going on over here? Right? Paro, he also supported people so that they could, people, spiritual people, priests, etc. So the Gemara says that Rabbi Akiva, the Gemara Nedarim unknown, Rabbi Akiva, he married the daughter of Kalva Savua, one of the wealthiest people in Yerushalayim, and the father said, "I'm going to cut you out." And they were incredibly poor over here. So the question on this is, we find in other midrashim that people were miraculously made wealthy overnight from Eliyahu Hanavi, and in fact, Eliyahu appeared to Rabbi Akiva. So why didn't that happen? Eliyahu Hanavi. Why didn't he build them a nice palace like what Eliyahu Navi did to others? So the Rabbi Yaakov Galinsky says that if Rabbi Akiva was made wealthy, he would have been relieved of many troubles, but he would have never became Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was built from a life of privation, of poverty. That's how his life started. The Mesilas Yesharim explains in the beginning that everything is a test. Wealth, poverty, everything is a test for a person, whatever it is, and we have to pass whatever we have. Shlomo Melech said, just give me what I want. That's what he said. Don't give me too much, don't give me too little, because of the test. It's going to be too difficult. Shlomo Melech, the wisest of all men, right? It could be bad on either side. So he ended up saying, just give me what I need to live on, and then that's it. And then it will be good. That's what he said. The idea over here is that we were created in order to connect to Hashem. And if we feel like we're lacking, we're going to turn to Hashem more, and we can fulfill our mission in this world. This is why Hashem said that His chosen tribe would have to depend on others for the sustenance, because Rahman Ali Hashem wants their hearts. Gemara in Sanhedrin on Kufav. And lack brings a person to pray and cling to Hashem. A summary of these reasons is that people who are poor typically are more humble, have a clearer mind. They don't have an overabundance, which causes them to sin. They're going to pray more, and they're going to have more belief in Hashem, probably as well, bitachon, and they're going to be closer to Hashem. People who are poor statistically are more religious. Poor people are more likely to work on themselves and their character. Bottom line, what's the end of the day? This is a tremendous amount of information, which I tried to summarize. It's even much more, believe it or not. I tried to get it all in one shot over here. What is the bottom line? So we have a lot of advantages and disadvantages that we're contending with. Perhaps someone who is in between is the best, but statistically, more people are more religious. However, wealth is obviously a good thing because we daven for it. So what's the best thing? Regardless of what's best or what's worse, we have to set aside time to learn every single day. Keep Torah and mitzvahs, as the Gemara in Yuma discusses on Lamed Hey. Whether a person is poor, wealthy, or has has other attributes, good looking, and Yetzer Hara gets to him. Everyone is obligated to learn, like the Rambam talks about in Hilchos Talmud Torah, Perek Aleph Halacha Ches as well. Even with some a lot of kids, everyone's obligated to learn. That's for sure what it is. Now the length and width of the table of the Shulchan and the Beis Hamikdash were in full because when it comes to money, we have to view ourselves when it's full. However, when it comes to Torah, we always want to look ourselves like it's lacking. It's based on the measurements. That's a whole other discussion in and of itself. That's what we have to realize. Perhaps there is an answer to this question, though. The pasuk in Shoftim says regarding a king that the kesev zahav lo yarbalo. Well-known halacha that a king can't have too much. He can't have too many horses, too much wealth. Why? Because it will take him away from serving Hashem properly, right? So that's what the Torah says over here, right? So the question is, aren't most kings violating this? Don't they have a tremendous amount of wealth? The answer to this question provides tremendous insight to everything that we've just been discussing, according to my humble opinion, and wealth in general. The Rambam in Hilchos Malachim in Perek Gimel Halacha Dalet says that a king cannot accumulate too much gold and silver to place in his treasury in order to become arrogant. Rather, the wealth should be used for the army and benefit of his country. When the wealth is used in that matter, says the Rambam, it's not only permissible for a king to accumulate wealth, but it's a mitzvah for him to do so. The Kesef Mishnah and the Radbaz, this is the punchline, point out that David HaMelech and other kings increased their wealth in order to be used for godly purposes, such as the Beis Hamikdash, according to my humble opinion. From this idea, we can understand the essence of what wealth is about. Is it good or bad? It's not a yes or no answer. It depends. What's the purpose of the wealth? Is it just to show it off to others? Or is it to be used for spiritual pursuits? Is it just to be involved with physicalities and a person satisfying his temporary desires and lusts? It's bad. Or is it for Torah and mitzvahs? Is it for spiritual pursuits to be used for good deeds to help others? Then wealth is positive. If wealth increases one's arrogance or distances him from religion, which is truly important, then it's terrible. However, on the other side, if it's going to be used for good pursuits and good ideas, then that's a good thing. So this basically is the summary of pros and cons, and I think a very good conclusion and an idea of what wealth is. So that's a deeper idea of what Hashem was showing Yaakov, that wealth it could lift a person up like Moshe. You could become great through it, but it could also lift a person down. Be very careful because you don't want to get swallowed up like Korach. That's the idea over here. There's angels ascending, descending. There's a top, there's a bottom. Where is the person going to be holding? That I think is
What was the instance where a poor person will have more time to learn? How does that work?
well, if a person is poor, he doesn't have to work as hard. If he's
I
just
mean,
if he's just sitting around all day and he doesn't have a job.
the definition of poverty is that you don't have what you need.
Right, you don't have what you need. So nowadays in America, you have the food stamps, you have all these programs. If someone's poor, you could literally just sit and learn all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not with yeshiva tuition.
Right, but there are breaks and everything, and there are certainly people who are learning full time, and they
Yeah.
do such a thing. Yeah,
So again, so the Malach came on the Yarden. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand the whole concept because he was going to Israel, so the ones that be coming back.
Yeah.
So when you tie it into Mama, I understand Mama